That's part of the fun of seeing technology unfold is what we expect. And then we're like, okay, we wanted to follow the rules, but not really. Can we dial that a different way? I mean, come on, 55 on the highway. Can't we like at least 65? I mean, he's going to give us a ticket for that, right?
And where's the line then? Like, are we going to be able to customize these things? Like, no, I want my Waymo to be able to go 5 miles per hour over. I mean, because there's legalities and there's safety. Who decides this? Welcome to Curiously Stuck, the show where we unpack the stuck moments, curious leaps, and behind-the-scene pivots of becoming a business leader. I'm your host, Chelsea Stuck, former sales manager, now turned brand strategist. If you're starting to explore how AI is reshaping food service, this one is for you. Today's guest operates at the intersection of innovation and human behavior. Mike Courtney, founder of Aperio Insights, brings over 25 years of experience in marketing research and strategic foresight. From AI and robotics to autonomous vehicles, blockchain, and even psychedelic medicine, Mike studies what drives behavior and, more importantly, what it takes to change it. He's also deeply invested in building solutions that improve daily life for people with disabilities and their caregivers. This conversation goes beyond trends. We're digging into how emerging technologies actually land with real people and what that means for the future of your business. So let's get curious. Mike, thank you so much for joining me.
Thanks for having me on. I'm excited.
I'm so excited too. So this has been not a long time coming, but it feels like a long time coming because for my guests, I met Mike at dinner at South by Southwest this year, which if you've never been, I'm only on my second time, so I'm still a baby to South by Southwest, but I am hooked and I'm already going back next year. But anyway, we had dinner and we just had such a great conversation that I asked him to be on Curiously Stuck. And then we had a really fun adventure that I'll talk about in a minute. And here we are. So, Mike, where are you based at? Where are you coming from today?
Dallas, Texas. So I was born and raised upstate New York in a little teeny town that was sort of like the poor cousin to Corning. People know Corning because it's got a glass company, Corning Glass.
Yes, we do.
Yeah. And, I lived about 20 minutes away in Elmira, New York, which has a college and a prison. So,
okay.
Sort of similar, but not,
Yeah, that would be a whole other episode, I think, with maybe some trauma bonding. But that being said, so fun fact, Mike is who I shared my very first Waymo ride with. And Mike, I don't know if you want to just sort of like get us started in the story, but I remember I looked at him and he's like, yeah, I've been riding Waymo all week, South by. And they were everywhere. It's like They were everywhere. And I'm like, how do I secret handshake and do this? And Mike helped me do it.
Yeah, it was fun. So in the work I do, I'm a marketing researcher and futurist, which means I focus on what people do today and what they might do tomorrow or in the future. And along the way, we've done all sorts of things with autonomous vehicles. So I've ridden in, you name it, prototype stuff, the things you're like, wait, that's not really, so all those issues.
So, I'm not doing that. Thank you for testing for all of us because I was no joke a little bit nervous to do it alone because I just it's something new and we're all going to face this. And I mean this is the new reality. And so fun fact, the funny story with Mike and I is I'm like I really want to ride in this Waymo and so he helps me or you called one, right?
Yeah.
You called one to go to your hotel or wherever you're going. And so I get in, and so I'm comfortable because Mike's there with me. And then I realize, oh, wait a minute. I need to get home from where we're going. And so when we got there, we were like, well, surely, of course, we'll just hit the Waymo thing and it's going to like realize that we're in the same place that this vehicle is in because this technology is so smart. And it didn't work out that way. And it was really funny because like we ended up having to stand around and that's how we kind of even got further talking is because it was like 15 minutes till another Waymo randomly came and picked me up to take me home.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that says a lot about how technology works that like we assumed that it was going to be able to figure it out. And also there wasn't the Uber driver for me to say like, hey, can I change the destination or can I change the ending?
Add something, extend it, We also didn't get to talk sports or weather with the car. I mean, it didn't ask us how our trip had been so far. None of that.
That's true. Yeah, but it did have like this fun little onboarding thing, like a little video like we were on the airplane. That was kind of
Yeah,
interesting.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And had it known it was your first time, it really could have had fun with it. And it could have like, made a sound like vault doors closing and, let's see if you can get out of here. I mean, it could have made it like an escape room experience and really freaked you out and then just, no, just kidding, we'll get you there. But someday maybe autonomous vehicles will have personalities like that. And you're like, great, I got the Joker. But
So in your experience in you said that, you've been in maybe the ones that weren't quite as figured out. So
Mhm.
what did you learn from that? Or is that AI driven? Like how does this all work? Explain this to me. I know nothing.
Some of the things we've done along the way really were interesting because if you think of it, people are like, oh, okay, well, if the car is going to drive itself, will I feel safe? Will I feel like it's doing the right thing? And along the way, we've done research, for example, on, where you want the vehicle to be in the lane, like if there's a big truck next to you. Because you think, well, autonomous vehicle should follow the rules, stay in its lane, unless there's a big truck next to me. Then I don't want it in the middle of the lane. I sort of want it inched over a little bit because that's what I would do naturally, although I don't really say that. I don't say, oh yeah, when a truck comes along, I hug this curve or I hug this side. So we've done those kind of research studies along the way to say, hey, they want the vehicle to be safe, but they also want it to drive like they would, which means if somebody else is, coming and they're still a block away or 2 blocks away, you just go. You're like, I got plenty of time. Autonomous vehicles, very safe. They're like, somebody's 2 blocks away. They might be in here about 2 minutes. I should wait. And so they're going to follow the rules to the point where you're like, come on, guy, can't you just, step on it, do something? That's part of the fun of seeing technology unfold is what we expect. And then we're like, okay, we wanted to follow the rules, but not really. I mean, come on, 55 on the highway. Can't we like at least 65? I mean, he's going to give us a ticket for that, right? So it is interesting that the difference between what humans say they want and then in reality, you're like, yeah, I know I said I wanted that, but can we dial that a different way?
So do you think that where's the line then? Like are we going to be able to customize these things? Like, no, I want my Waymo to be able to go 5 miles per hour over. I mean, because there's legalities and there's safety and there's got to be like I don't want to say zero tolerance, but like where's the tolerance? Who decides
Yeah.
this?
It's one of those things that we're watching the sausage being made while we're, at the dinner table in a sense. So some of this are things that we're going to have to see how it evolves and say, hey, I really want this to happen versus that. And some of it's just practical. They'll have to figure out a way to say, okay, follow the rules, except. I mean, let's say you're up north and there's been snow and, one lane in each direction, except the plow only plowed one lane total. So you're like, okay, so for anybody to go, they're going to have to sort of be in the middle. So you're going to have to teach the car, hey, it just snowed, plow came through, there's only one lane, suck it up and just everybody else is dealing with it. Nobody's going to get upset because they're doing it too. And if you find somebody, you're just going to have to both either agree somehow who goes first, who goes second, can you scooch around each other? So
And how far off do you think, okay, Mr. Futurist, like how far off are we to that being the level of decision making that's happening in the bot or in how it's programmed or
it's already happening. And that's the thing is that there's so many things that I think in today's world, Chelsea, that are happening with technology that we're really not aware of until something big happens or something goes wrong and it makes the news. And you're like, see, I told you. But at the end of the day, we've sort of gotten away from the idea that technology or new things, come out in January and it's an annual
Mm.
refresh and hey, it's the XYZ model. It's like, no, it's the model from 14 hours ago, which replaced the model from 4 hours ago or 8 hours ago or 3 hours ago. So we're in a continuous evolvement, a continuously improving situation, which is sort of unusual. We're going to have to get used to it, but that's the world we live in. Things get better because we say, no, I don't like that, fix it. And before you know it, they did. We have to figure out what the unintended consequences are of that fix. But we're in a continuously evolving world, moment by moment, minute by minute.
so how do we handle that? I mean, how do we think about that? How do we like I mean I think I was speaking to you earlier and I said, one of the things that I feel now, maybe this is a Chelsea Stuck thing. So like I don't want to speak for everybody, but I feel in some ways less anxious about the speed of change right now because I have very much accepted, like, okay, you know what? Screw it. I'm not going to freaking know. Like, like it's just constantly changing. It is what it is. I'm just going to do my best. And, that's honestly, that's part of why I've aligned myself with a lot of smart people like yourself to learn from, because I'm not a futurist. I don't have time to study all this, but I can learn from people like you, going to these events and get pictures into the future. So I'm less anxious in that way, but at the same time, there's no way to be anxious with the level of change. So what do we do about that? How do we think about that?
I think it's the judo move. We sort of leverage it because I would argue that in today's world, with the pace of change and how quickly things are evolving, if you're not just a little bit, not quite worried, but aware and cautious, or at least just, acknowledging that some crazy things can happen, then I think that's almost irresponsible. We have to know that, hey, this great thing might turn into great stuff with a little bit of stuff that you're like, that wasn't so good. Um, so
Yeah.
I think it's okay to be a little anxious, but not be sort of frozen by it, not be sort of deer in the headlights, like, oh my God, change is happening or AI is happening, and I'm just going to sit here shell shocked and wait for things to happen to me. And that's, I think, one of the narratives that I'm sort of getting a little tired of. Is people, oh well, technology is going to do this to us, AI is going to do this to us, technology is going to take this from us. And I'm like, okay, I understand that those are concerns, but at a certain point, we have to say technologies are tools. Tools are just the application of science and knowledge for the benefit of humans. And whether that's a wheel or eyeglasses or something, we have to say, okay, we're in control. We need to basically make AI and other technologies our bitch and get them to do the things that benefit humans. Excuse me for swearing.
I swear, so it's cool. On
I was
Curiously Stuck, we swear, so it's all good. See, there, I did it. I went for the all of it. Well, so it's interesting though, because you, in your previous work, and this is sort of how we got talking that night at dinner, you were part of Nokia's story, I believe, whenever putting I'm going to butcher this, but putting the camera in the phone, right? Or the process or what, please explain this, because that was a huge moment for all of us that
Yeah.
we didn't even know how big it was until we couldn't live without it. So in drawing some comparison, can you share that story?
Sure. So years ago, I used to work for a little Finnish company called Nokia. And they were sort of having a moment because everybody was discovering, hey, phones are a good thing to have. And, carrying something the size of a shoebox and eventually smaller was the hip, cool thing to do. And it was useful. But R&D came to us one day in the research group, said, hey, we could put a little chip in the phone and it would take a photo. Okay. They're like, does anybody want that? Like, good question. And so it eventually kicked off multi-country study, qualitative research, quantitative, all sorts of stuff, like 10, 11 countries. And as the results country by country came in, they were very consistent. Wow, this one, that one too. Everybody basically saying bad idea, stupid, dumb, sort of. And we're like, why? Okay, because we were like, sounded like a sort of cool idea to us, but to most consumers, they were still stuck in the present and we were thinking about the future. They were stuck in the mindset of this thing's got 20 minutes talk time on a good day if I'm standing on a hill, and it's still sort of big. And, I got a camera. I'll show it to you. It's in the kitchen in a drawer. We all know where it's kept. Once a year, we take it out and develop the film, whether it needs it or not. And they didn't think this idea made sense because of these constraints. And we said, well, what are they missing? Well, they're missing the fact, though, hey, by the way, we've seen the new prototypes for the next generation of stuff. Batteries are going to be great. Devices are going to get smaller. The networks, we talked to the network guys because they were part of the organization too. And they're like, oh, yeah, we're going to go from a voice network to a voice and data network. You're going to be able to send files. I'm like, oh, like a photo? Yeah, sure. So they didn't see the things that we, as people in that industry, futurists in a sense, saw.
Yeah.
So they gave a very predictable response of, you're stupid. This doesn't make sense. But we reevaluated and eventually we did other research that says, well, when do they take photos? What do they take photos of? Because believe it or not, back in that day, you didn't take photos of your food very often. And you didn't take pictures of your parking spot or other things like that. You took pictures of events and moments that were emotional, that were memorable. A wedding, a vacation, a birthday party, kid hitting his first ball or first steps. And so what we were really inventing at the time wasn't just put a chip in a phone. It was the ability to capture emotion and transfer emotion when it still mattered. Because if you and I went to a party and our best friends couldn't be there, we would take a photo and share it and say, hey, look what you're missing out. And they'd sort of feel that emotion. They'd feel that sense. And so that's what we did, is say, it's the time value of emotion. If I can take an image and share it right away with somebody who's not there but wishes they were, we're sort of sharing a piece of our life. So that's what futurists in a nutshell do, is we imagine what could make that idea true. And, what are we really trying to solve? Are we really trying to solve, make it easier to not have to go to the kitchen and remember to pull out that camera that's in the drawer and bring it along to the kids, little league game? Or are we just trying to live our life and make sure we have the tools available in the right moment to do the things that are meaningful for us?
So I love this story. And, when you apply futurism to what are we trying to solve with AI, how would you answer that question? What are we trying to solve? I mean,
You
I
know,
think we've lost sight of that at times.
yeah,
And I think that it's really, really big at times, or
yeah.
it's just blurry. So talk to me a little bit. What
So
do you think we're trying to solve?
I think we're so early that a lot of what we might be able to solve is sort of unknown.
Mm.
I think we talked at South by about the show that's really popular right now, Landman, with Billy Bob Thornton. I love it.
Love that show.
And for some of your listeners, it's a great show. It's about the oil industry. Billy Bob Thornton, this role is just made for him.
Oh my god! It's just it's so amusing, but yet so much commentary on life. But
Oh,
yes,
yeah.
it's a great show.
So there's a scene, I think it's an episode or season one, where Billy Bob and the lawyer are in a truck going out in the middle of nowhere, and there's all these windmills, and she's talking about, oh, you use clean energy to pump dirty oil. It's like, no, alternate energy. There's nothing clean about it. And he goes into this whole thing about what oil is used for and what's it in, and it's in tires and heart valves and antihistamines, lipstick. It's in damn everything. And we don't do it because we like it. We do it because we have to, because 120 years ago, our ancestors, basically built a world on oil. And that made me think, well, how did that come to be? Because
Mm,
120 years ago, you'd say, well, how did we get to the point where we started drilling and extracting and processing and turning into all sorts of things? We had no idea what we create, but what got it started? What got it started was the ability to create a tool or tools. One tool that says, hey, how could we dig down into the earth farther than Chelsea and Mike could with a couple of good shovels? Oh, yeah, we invented a drill. Okay, great. What else? We invented this whole way to process it and turn it into things that could do useful stuff for us. Now, granted, at the time, somebody probably, and I didn't check history, but somebody probably said, oh, wait, you're able to like light a lamp in your house with it? Yeah. You're going to put all those whale fishermen out of business. They're going to have no jobs. You're killing the whale industry, and we won't. I mean, oh my gosh, Uncle Joe and his whale fishing operations dead. And so there was some angst there. But most of
sure.
the things we were using it for, light a lamp, maybe, fuel an engine, etc. They were the basic things. But nobody said, oh, and someday we'll be able to make a heart valve or an antihistamine or something that's
Right.
really, truly important, desalination plant, whatever it is that became one of the things. And I think that's where we are with AI today. We're looking at saying, hey, wait, you're going to put, the people that, transcribe, audio files out of business. You're going to make the people that summarize long documents, you're going to put them out of business. Well, we're not thinking about all the things it's going to create. And I think that's where we need to really start focusing on. Great. Yeah, it's going to disrupt some things. Some of the whale fishermen are going to not be needed. Okay, let's take a moment. Okay, I'm sad. Great, I'm over it. Now let's figure out what we can do with it, because we're going to be able to
Yeah.
do so many things. And I think the answer to what it can do is, what do you want to do? I mean, there is no real, barrier there. Just what do you want to do? I mean, sky's the limit.
Yeah. No, I think that's a really good point. And I think, in just talking to a lot of business owners, especially over the last couple months as I've been traveling, at least in, specifically in the food service industry, that what do I want to do with it? Some people seem still really overwhelmed with just that question. And my point is, I totally sympathize and empathize with that because there's been times where, we've been at the forefront of AI rolling out and marketing and all of these tools and texts, and they're constantly changing and they're constantly getting better. And oh my gosh, prompting's completely different than it was. And it's GPT and now, Sora gets canceled. And like, it's just been the Wild West. But I think maybe that's where some of my not angst of like, screw it, I'll figure it out, has come from. But I've been very adamant of like, you just need to start using it and playing with it and paying attention and asking yourself those questions. And yeah, sometimes it might feel like more work or it's another thing, but so did social media when it first came out,
Yeah.
right? Like we were all like, I don't want to put my life on social media. Now there's people that you're like, okay, you're putting too much of your life on social media. There are people making livings off of putting their lives on social media. It's changed. And that's what, 10, 15 years? Gosh, I don't even know how many years it's been out now, but I think about 15 because I was in my master's when it was coming out. Um, but anyway, so I think the landman is a really interesting analogy because oil isn't everything around us. So is AI going to be, or slightly is already,
Yeah.
in everything around us?
Yeah. I think it already is, to the large extent, in many things around us, even when we don't know it. And
So
it
give
will just,
examples of that. What does that feel like to like me? Because there's things that you're going to say that I might not even think about it being in.
I mean, I think the things that we're aware of the most are where it's either had a really big positive impact or it started to mess things up or screw people over. We've probably read in the past year things like if you go to the website to book a flight or to get a rental car and it knows you're in this zip code versus that zip code, you get a different price. Because like, oh, well, that's a pretty bougie neighborhood. We're going to say the $500 versus if it says you're in a zip code that's less affluent, maybe it's $400. Oh, okay. You didn't even know it. And then, somebody does an expose and, hey, this dynamic pricing, you might be getting screwed over. Okay. So we see those things. But AI is being used by so many companies to run their operation. And right now it is largely, making our process of going down the cow path faster. But eventually it's going to say, why do we have to go this route faster? We can do it. But, we could also just cut across the field and go there. And people are going to be like, damn, that's right. And so we're going to reinvent things. Even in the restaurant business, you and I have probably both watched, a whole slew of shows where, diners, drive-ins, dives, all those things where somebody
All
says,
of them.
and this is how we make grandma's recipe and this. And why do you put this in it? Well, that's the way grandma did it, and why do you make a batch of this size? Well, that's the way grandpa did it, and we just follow that and it works and that's great. And it's nice to preserve some of those things. But eventually AI is going to say, we could still come up with the same product that grandma was really famous for. Won't taste any different, but we're going to change the process just a little bit, which makes it more efficient. Oh, but it's going to taste the same, right? Yeah. Same basic ingredient. Yeah. And so it's going to be able to find things that in today's world, we say, it's a real pain in the butt, but this is the way we've got to do it.
Yeah. Yeah. And we're already seeing that happen. There are some major issues that aren't always forefront to those non-food service people. Like think of the amount of food waste.
Yeah.
Think of ordering, the carbon footprint of even all of this food, the logistics, labor issues, and equipment going down, service issues. Like there's a lot that I don't want to say we take for granted, but I think when you step outside of food service, you do not realize the enormous amount of commerce and industry and operations that go into you being able to order that same hamburger at
Yeah.
McDonald's at every single location across 14,000 or however many locations across the US. And it's insane. I always actually, this is my random gripe. Starbucks, if you're listening, they don't have fresh lemon and they have iced tea. And we know, okay, totally going to go off on a tangent here. We know that if you drink a lot of iced tea, which I do, that you can get kidney stones. If you like, one of the ways you don't from it is adding lemon. Now, someone can comment and tell me that I'm totally wrong, and that's fine. I'm not a medical doctor. That's just what I read once. I took it as Bible. I put lemon in my iced tea. So I'm always like frustrated that I'm like, McDonald's has fresh lemons. How can Starbucks not have fresh lemons? But I am positive that there is a whole reason, whether it's how they order their food, whether it's how they store things, like process it, who knows as to why they can't do that or why they choose not to do it, I should say.
Right.
Um, but I only make the gripe because I'm in food service and I'm like, okay, how possibly hard could this be?
A lemon.
Like,
It's a
but we
lemon.
don't think about that stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. When life
So,
gives you lemons, make sure you have enough of them left over for tea, So,
yes, for
yeah.
iced tea,
Yeah.
absolutely. Not
Yeah.
sweet tea. Sorry, I'm not a
Well,
southerner like
different.
you. I don't do the sweet tea.
That's different,
Um,
different. But
I want go
just
ahead.
the lemon things. One of the things that we've seen even in the past decade, back one of the companies we're involved with as an investors is freight farms, where they actually grow different things in containers in an environment that uses basically AI to make sure that the growing environment within that container is exactly dialed into whatever you want. You can say, hey, I want to grow these tomatoes and I want that climate to mimic this specific zip code in Italy for this specific variety of tomatoes. And the tomatoes that are growing are going to grow up thinking that they're in that exact zip code of that other country because everything, the humidity, the light, everything's dialed in. So maybe in the future, every Starbucks will have this little, a couple of lemon trees on the roof, and
A
they go up
lemon
every
tree.
day and grab a couple lemons, and it's grown right there in a little biome that is just like the perfect environment for lemon trees, and it's on the top of every Starbucks.
I like this idea. We need to Starbucks hire Mike, think this through, and get me lemons, please. Um, so I want to take a little bit of a pivot here. Um, I I don't know a lot about this, so I'm very curious that you're working with disabled people and their caregivers and
Yes.
applying technology. Please share this with me because I think that first off, I'm just very personally interested in knowing more about that. And I know my car. I just spent time with my car, so I have this. I'm curious if it's somehow connected.
Hmm.
Um, but also, I think it's probably a great example of, like, these are things that, like, I haven't even thought about where AI and where technology can be applied. So please tell me more about that.
So the concept is what we call daily living labs. Daily living labs. And it's
Okay.
the idea of building a community of caregivers and individuals with disabilities that can go to this website, this community, and find things that solve a problem they have, including things that, hey, I've always had this problem, but I don't think there's a solution, but I've got this problem. We might be able to say, hey, guess what? There's a solution. It just wasn't very well known because some solutions can't afford a Super Bowl ad. Some solutions aren't on billboards and magazines, but they exist. So we're going to help you find things. And then when you say, hey, we looked for it, we helped you look for it with AI and all these tools, community couldn't find what you need. So let's build the damn thing. Let's invent it because why not? Over my career, I've done a lot of work on different research studies that dealt with various disabilities, mobility, people in wheelchairs, blind and low vision, hearing loss, you name it, cerebral palsy, And every time I did those research studies, even though I was supposed to be an impartial researcher observing and just sort of collecting data, I often couldn't help myself at the end of an interview saying, hey, I noticed you struggle with that thing over there. And are you sure there's nothing that would fix that? And like, no, I'm like, well, I've got an idea. And if I have an idea, I wonder what other ideas other people would have. So I came up with this concept of daily living labs to help create a community that solves the problems of the community. Because let's say you have a family member that has an issue and it's just an issue and you've never been able to solve it. I might say, well, my family member doesn't have the issue, but I've got an idea that might help yours, but I can't do anything because it's just an idea. Somebody else might overhear us and say, I don't have the issue. I didn't come up with the idea, but I can mock something up. I'm sort of a designer, but I don't have a 3D printer right now. Somebody else will say, oh, I got that 3D printer and so on. So the community really can solve the problems that the community has if we all connect the dots. And I think that concept in of itself to help people with disabilities is great, but I think it also transfers over to any other industry. If
Hmm.
I'm a restaurateur saying, hey, I have an issue with this part of my process or this part of my business, maybe it's, fries get cold too quickly. Okay, how do we deal with that? Maybe somebody else will say, I've got an idea, but I can't make the equipment do it. Some equipment guy might say, we've never tried that, but we could modify one of our things and try it. And so the community can help the community. And AI helps do the matching and explore things and just keep everybody connected. So if that's
Hmm.
one thing that AI could do is to help people connect to each other, say, hey, I have this issue. Oh, there's a solution over here. Or I have this issue. Well, there's no solution. Let's put our heads together and let's make something. Let's invent it. Because why the hell not?
Wow. So I didn't realize that it was a community. Where does the community live? Is it on Discord? Is it on, I mean, where is this community?
Good question. So we're building it right now. We've done work with a number of universities, professors and their students that are research and design to sort of make sure we're building the right foundation and get this flywheel going. So building in, AI to help you find things, AI to help connect people that have a common interest in solving an issue, even if they don't themselves have the issue, fine. And have Discord type forums and community where somebody can say, hey, what about this? Or this worked, but I can't get it due to this other thing because I don't have, something that maybe somebody else has, in terms of their ability and how their body works or doesn't work. So
So it'll be its own platform then, is what
it'll
I,
be
I
its own
was
platform and
awesome.
it'll be an adjunct to the organizations that already exist. We're not trying to replace the Autism Society. We're not trying to replace, ARP or these other organizations. We're trying to basically be the innovation arm that says we're going to find things, build things, and integrate them. Because even in my world, I mean, I don't have a disability, although my wife might disagree on some days when I forget stuff. But when I go into my kitchen and I ask the devices sitting there that we sometimes use as recipe timers and that kind of thing, hey, do I have any packages or play notifications? It's like, you have a package from Amazon. I'm like, yeah, I know. 4 other cameras saw me take it off the porch 2 hours ago. And then 2 cameras in my office saw me unbox the thing. So who didn't tell you? So integrate things to just make it a better experience. Because the more devices we have in our life, they're all beeping or blinking or wanting to play a message and, having to get through all those messages going, nope, already knew it. Nope, already knew it. That wasn't relevant. That wasn't relevant. No, I don't want to reorder that. Just shut up. So the integration of it all.
Interesting. Yeah, because I mean, I think that one of the things that came out of the uprising last week was about control your inputs. And it was about the idea that, we're just, there's so much coming at us at any given time.
Yeah.
And to your point, in this case, it's that, the information you're getting back is old news. I mean, it's like, like there's a way to solve this. It should
Yeah.
know these things. And so you're wasting my time now going through the laundry list of things I already know, which means I'm not going to come back and ask you, or I'm not going to have the value out of this, you know, human machine relationship.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
hmm,
The other thing that I think bolts onto it though is at the organization level. I mean, if AI and robotics and all these technologies are, it's like a train you're not going to stop. It's like this wave, this storm is coming in. Hey, the AI storm's coming. It's going to be really powerful. It's going to change everything. Great. Well, most organizations are taking the approach of, well, every man for themselves, every man and woman. Guys in marketing, they got some umbrellas with logos on them. I think they're good. Finance this, some inner tubes, they should float along just fine, et cetera, et cetera. The organizations are just letting everybody do what they want. These people want to use it, great, let them use it. These people a little hesitant, that's fine. It's not a requirement, you do you. But instead of we umbrellas and inner tubes, we need arcs instead of umbrellas. We need to build a structure, a strategy for the whole organization. So we don't leave the people in the organization behind that maybe didn't get to AI in time to really figure it out. But they're still important to the organization. So we need to sort of
yeah.
build an arc that lifts up everybody. And maybe the industry needs to build an arc to say, let's all work together and think through what might be coming down the pike and what might happen so we can put our collective heads together and figure out how we're going to use this technology to benefit our industry and make sure our industry doesn't get, washed away by it.
Well, it's interesting. So, also at the uprising last week, they were talking about someone was sharing, I might butcher the stat, but hopefully I get it right, that it was something like overwhelmingly, and I feel like it was in the 75% or like it was some high percentage, that Gen Xers were the ones that overwhelmingly were actively trying to sabotage their company's AI usage, like over any other generations. Like they were 75% more likely or something like that. And I thought that was really interesting because one of the themes, and I think we talked about this too at South by, was they were talking about like these mass layoffs and these things are going to keep happening because people aren't going to adopt and they're not going, they're not willing to embrace it. But I
Yeah.
like the way that you're coming at it of helping them, building that arc,
Yeah.
building, accepting that not everybody, first off, this isn't everybody's thing. And some people, I mean, I know we always say like, well, it saves you time. Well, I'm sorry, but if you play around and work in AI enough, there's times where you get real frustrated real fast when you could have just done the thing yourself
Yeah.
because either your prompt was bad or whatever reason, like it just got you down a rabbit hole and you tried to fix it and whatnot.
Uh-huh.
And that's frustrating
Yeah.
because it was supposed to save me time. So what do you think about that though? The idea that, there was a little bit of doom and gloom of like people not adopting and
Mhm.
layoffs and futurist Mike.
Yeah.
What are
So
you seeing in the crystal ball, please?
well, and just to be clear, futurists don't predict. We're not Karnak. We just look at the possibilities. But
Okay,
again,
fair, fair.
look in the past. For example, at some point in the past, everybody was doing the farming, and everybody had, ox or some draft horses, where everything was fine. And then some asshole went and bought a tractor, and everyone's like, "What did Jed get?" And it does what? Oh, come on, and Jeb was able to go out there and farm a lot more acres than everybody that just had the ox and the mule and the horse. But there were days when Jeb couldn't do a damn thing because his tractor was broken. And you're like, oh, I thought the tractor was supposed to help you, Jeb. It looks like it's not doing anything, and my horse is still just fine, And Jeb had to go and get a new part that wasn't really common because nobody really else had tractors in his county. He had to order it through Sears and Roebuck or something. His tractor's out of commission for a month. Okay. But then eventually they got those things worked out. And 20, 30 years later, all the rest of the people in that valley said, okay, we finally decided to get one of those stupid tractors like that asshole Jeb because he's farming 500 acres. We're still stuck on 40. And well, okay, fine, we'll try. And it worked out. And by the way, some of those bugs had worked out. They didn't break down as much, more reliable,
Yeah.
and you could do more with them. I think young people today might try to sabotage it because they're like, well, if it can do the basic things that an entry level person can do, well, I'm the entry level person. Uh-oh, you know, this is, this is challenging me. This is an issue for me because I don't have experience. I don't have that. So maybe I will try to say, oh, it's not good, or I want the entry level job. But what can you do?
Well, yeah, my Gen Alpha nephew, I asked him about AI and I was like, "Oh, who's your favorite creator?" Because I was trying to suss out if his creator was a real creator or if it was AI because we were having the
Yeah.
discussion about do people care? Does the
Uh-huh.
next generation care, I should say, if it's human or not? And he was like, "AI, I hate AI." And I mean, he's there is he I think he's 15. Yeah, he's 15. And I remember being like, "Well, why?" And he couldn't give me a reason. And so I was, I tried to poke and prod a little bit more. I didn't get much out of him, but it was interesting because, I mean, I know people that still are like, no, I'm not doing it. No, this is terrible. And listen, I'm not here to say that there aren't crazy environmental impacts and all kinds of things that are
Uh-huh.
going to come from it. I,
Yeah.
I'm not. I'm not denying that, but the tea leaves that I'm seeing and just even my own experiences and what it's allowed my business to do and my clients to do has been enough. The genie's out of the bottle.
Yeah.
So I'm riding the wave.
Yeah.
And I'm
Yeah.
going to
And
hope that legislation and everything follows.
yeah. And we know that legislation is always behind. We know that government and it is what it is. But just like when we go back to the landman oil analogy, we have no idea what amazing things are going to come out of this. And was oil just, all sunshine and light? Nope. Do we have pollution and spills and things that are like, ooh, that's bad, microplastics, all sorts of stuff that are like, oops, that wasn't a good look. So with AI moving so quickly, this is where I think we need to get involved. We need to get engaged and understand what it can do, what it can't do, and what becomes possible or what's soon to be possible. So we can advocate and say, hey, put up a fence, make a rule or regulation that says it can't do this, can't do that. Because we do want to mitigate the downside and maximize the opportunity and the positive potential. I mean, if we could go back 100, 120 years, we'd probably tell the oil industry, hey, this is going to be great, but however, let's make sure we do these other things that, going to reduce the issues down the road. And so we have that ability
Yeah.
now to engage and again, advocate for what we really think makes sense. But to properly advocate, we have to know what it can do. If you just show up and say this AI thing that I don't understand and I've never taken the time to really try to use or figure out, I think we need to be careful. Careful about what? Well, I don't know because I've never really used it. Okay, well, then you don't really have a lot of standing. So get in, get your hands dirty, figure out what it's good at, not good at, and then talk to other people. Say, hey, we need to make sure this, or we need to amplify that.
I think you're really I mean, I think you're spot on. And, I think that the sooner you start, the better. And, I know our team, I mean, we're using several tools simultaneously now just so we can test, like, hey, we know we built this way, but this thing's changed. And I mean, just seeing the differences in outputs side by side has
Hmm.
been amazing and caused greater discussion and helped us discover other things that we just didn't think about. Like, oh my
Yeah.
God, Claude said this, but ChatGPT was saying this. But over in Perplexity, and it's scary because the tech stack gets really high and really, quick, and I have a lot of clients that are stuck with just Copilot. That's all they've got access
Yeah.
to because the IT rub now.
Mhm.
And so I think there's a lot there that still needs to be worked out, but I guess in kind of wrapping things up, like, is there anything that you wanna leave us with of, like, where to start our journey, how to think about this? I know that you're also a professor, so, like, how do you what do you tell your students when it comes to the future and AI and how to think about all this?
One of the number one things I tell people, clients and students, is that when you encounter a frustration or challenge or difficulty, the first thing you have to do is imagine there's already a solution. You just haven't seen it. You haven't found it. If you go and search and go, well, there's probably not a solution for this. Holy shnikes, there is. Now it might suck, okay, or it might do an okay job, but the next iteration will do better. And by the way, again, we don't have to wait for an annual release to do better because if somebody made somebody happy with what they've already built, somebody else is going to say, they made money. Great. Let's sort of do our version. And next thing you know, there's 10 versions out there, and one of them is going to be better than the next. So assume that there's a solution to the thing that messes up your day, that frustrates you, that causes you, some sort of difficulty. Assume there's a solution. And then be aware of things that maybe don't exist, but you could get others together and say, why don't we build this? We'd all benefit if we just build this. If you think about a typical restaurant today, think about 100 years ago, what did that restaurant have in terms of equipment? Maybe it had a fire and like a crock, like a Dutch
Solid fuel. We call it solid fuel.
yeah, solid fuel and a Dutch oven or something. Maybe that's all they had, right? And then eventually, and then, oh my gosh, wait, now we've got this fryer. What the hell's a fryer? They added all this equipment. And then somebody's like, hey, if we par cook this and we have a steamer, then we can put under the boiler. They did all sorts of things. And now that's just the way things work. Well, who's to say 5 years from now, we're not going to have all sorts of other things that we say, wow, that makes it a better product, faster, less waste, less hassle, less cleanup. It made our business operation better. Oh, wow. Who'd have thought? So, first of
Yeah.
all, know the things that are working and not working and be willing to change and break both of them. Because even if you're like, yeah, it works fine, it's worked this way for 40 years since grandma started this place. Okay. But can we still deliver what grandma loved and what all the customers of grandma's recipes love? But can we change our process in the way that reduces the effort and puts us in less of a bind when things do go wrong or could go wrong? So I think net as a futurist, I'm pretty positive about the world's going to get better because most people are good people. Will people be able to use technology for bad things? Yeah, they always have been able to. But there's more good people than bad people. And if we really try to harness it, yoke it, and make it work for us, technology, that's what its purpose is. And we've got a really bright future to be able to say, hey, we don't have to do all of these things the same way. We don't have to spend our energy doing this versus doing that. We can do the things that really matter and really add value for ourselves, for our customers, our clients, and our loved ones. And I think the world's going to be an amazing place. Will the whale fishermen still lose their jobs? Yeah. But that whole shift from those old ways of doing things to what oil brought us in that analogy, again, have been mind boggling. If you go back 120 years, hey, someday you're going to be able to have a heart replacement, and that heart valve is going to be made from this stuff that we extracted out of the ground. They're like, oh, you're nuts. But we're not nuts. We're just futurists.
What a perfect way to end this. And I appreciate that, sharing with us the net looks good, because I think that that's an important way to, keep that positive outlook and also stay curious about what the future holds. Thank you so much for joining me, Mike. This was great. I really appreciate it. And I look forward to having you back maybe in a couple months or a year, whatever, and see what's changed and what's developed.
Would love to come back. Thanks for having me on. This was really fun. And if anybody that listens to this ever has a question for a futurist, let them know they're welcome to contact me. And if they can stump a futurist, they'll get a special prize. So if they can ask me a question that makes me go, I have no idea, then we'll have a conversation with them and we'll bring them on the podcast. And I'll say, okay, they stumped me. Let's talk about it.
Okay. Challenge accepted, friends. See if you can stump the futurist. Mike, what's your contact information, or where do we go to get a hold of you?
My main email, my company is Aperio Insights. Aperio is Aperio Insights. Aperio is a Latin word that means to reveal, uncover, and make clear. So we reveal, uncover, and make clear insights. So Mike at AperioInsights.com, and I'm Mike Courtney, so I'm pretty easy to find online. I have a hard time hiding from people, so you'll find me.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Mike. And folks out there, challenge him. I want to have you on this podcast to see what comes of it. Thanks so much, Mike.
Thank you.